Why, hello, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. I think I'm live. Hello, I'm having one of those afternoons again. If people can see me, if you can hear me, please let me know. It is telling me I need to connect the... Oh, wait, it's happening. Is it happening? Is it happening? Hello, everyone. Again. How are you? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Am I here? Am I here with you on Facebook for another Wednesday afternoon live stream? You know what? Let me know if I am here. That's an interesting question, isn't it? Let me know if you can see me and if you can hear me and if everything's working well. Hello, Laura. Oh, good, 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 good. Every Wednesday, every once in a while, there's this mad kind of tech scramble that happens at the beginning of a live stream. And the computer will be telling me one thing, I'm thinking another. It becomes this very interesting, battle's too strong a word, but you know how it is, folks. Technology. Technology. But it's so good to be here, and I'm so glad to be live streaming again with you and seeing, imagining seeing you in my mind. Hello, Courtney. Seeing some familiar, friendly faces out there, here to make art with me or hang out for a little while. For folks who might be watching the live stream for the first time, just tuning in, or perhaps you're watching it when it's archived, every Wednesday we host a little live stream art hangout here on Facebook. Hello, Wendy. This is where I make art, I chat with you. You can make art at home, wherever you might be as well. You might be working from home or working somewhere else. And if you feel like listening or watching along, that's okay too. You can make art, but you don't have to make art. What we do here is we kind of contribute to the creative atmosphere, share a little bit of that creativity with one another so that even if we can't make art right now, we might be able to store some up and dip back into it later on. And if you're watching once it's been archived, thank you so much. You count too. Thank you for watching and supporting the studio and contributing with all your creative energy. Hey, Bee, good to see you. Hey, everybody, Bee's back. Welcome back to the studio. Yeah, it's an interesting time, right? We're all in transition. We're preparing for what? I'm not sure. But as long as we can still find time and make time in our day, even if it's just a little bit of time to create and connect with one another, all is well. And Courtney says, I'm going to do a spiral thing. Oh, the spiral thing that I made last week. It inspired me. Never did this before. I happen to have this in the corner here. Let's see, I'll hold it up. Like this kind of thing? Yeah, I love the spiral exercise. You can do so many things with it. It's just a way I like to ground myself and meditate a little bit, do an active meditation. And maybe, you know what, maybe I will copy you and do a little bit of that myself too. I won't get into it as much as I did last week, but perhaps that's another great way just to warm up and get inspired. I've got so many ideas of what I want to work on today. And that's usually a sign of, you know, a very cluttered mind. There's so many things on my mind. So how do I focus? How do I distill it down and just get to a place where I can relax and create and connect with you? Yeah, so let's spiral. Another interesting thing to say out loud. Phrases I never thought I'd hear myself say out loud. Let's spiral, everyone. Let's see if we can switch our cameras there. So I'm going to grab a marker. And again, just I first learned this activity, this exercise as it was through Linda Berry, the fabulous one and only Linda Berry. Of course, there's lots of ways, different ways of doing it, and lots of people have done it over time. And Laura says, yeah, Laura enjoyed the spiral they made last week, and the writing prompt was great. So for folks that tuned in after the live stream, I put up a little post essentially in the writers group after the Thursday morning writers group, sharing some of the inspiration for that day. And it involved the spiral. So you can revisit last week's writers post that I did on Thursday. And I shared Writing the Unthinkable. It's a YouTube video that Linda Berry created. And it starts with a spiral as a way to ground you. And the writing prompts that follow that Linda offers are just amazing. We did a slightly different take on them in the writer's prompt, but yeah, you can take it anywhere you want to go, and it just helps ground you and open up that possibility, that creative mind. And I like how in the video when she talks about when you're drawing the spiral, if the lines touch, you get electrocuted. Linda Berry's humor is very dry and very quirky and playful. I appreciate her so much. And last week I just spent a lot of time working on that spiral. I didn't even mean to, but I became absorbed in that process. And colored it in and added all sorts of elements to it, and the back as well. And I'm sure you could use it almost like a journal prompt every day, creating a spiral for every single day of the year. Maybe several spirals a day. Because I find each one I make kind of reflects where I'm at in the moment. It says a lot. I mean, it says a lot that maybe I'm the only one who understands, but that's okay. That's all part of the process, isn't it? We know ourselves the best. We're experts in how we feel, so we're going to be the ones who know our art the best. No one can really tell us what it's about. And if they do try to tell you what your art is about, no. Hello, Nicole. And B saying, yeah, it's like the game of Operation. Absolutely. We never had that game growing up. We didn't have it in my house, and I always wanted it. And then finally when, I think maybe it was cousins or someone who had the game, and we like always want to play it when we went over there. I think we enjoyed hitting the buzzer more than anything else. I don't think it was a good preparatory game as far as becoming a surgeon. No, because we just wanted to make the buzzer go off. And folks, if you're joining now, welcome. I just decided to dive right in. Some folks were talking about the spiral exercise we did last week in the live stream. And then, of course, in the writers group on Thursday. We didn't do the spiral as a part of that writers group, but it all connected with Linda Berry's Writing the Unthinkable exercise. And it's not even an exercise. It's really just a leaping off. It's a place to start. Because sometimes that's all you need. Permission to begin. And permission to not be perfect. Oh, Nicole has an update about the kind of day. It's National Junk Food Day, everyone. Well, that is good to hear. I think I might have been celebrating that all month, if I'm honest. And B saying, I played at my cousin's house too. Yeah, see what? Maybe we all need to buy one another the game of Operation for a present. I don't know. My parents did not want us kids to have the game because of the noise. Yeah, that might be why. Another game was, what was it? Was it called Perfection? The game where everything you had a timer and you had to get all the pieces into the right shaped places. And if you didn't do it in time, everything just kind of exploded out of the game. Am I remembering that correctly? I think that was another game that we always wanted. And I have a feeling for a similar reason that we did not have it in the house. And let's see. And Laura's saying, I just remembered I forgot to share it. I think E? I'm not sure. Laura, you can share it if you want. You can share it again here. And yes, Perfection. B is following up on that. It was so very stressful. Yep, so lots of memories for folks attached to that game. Yeah, there was a real time period, and maybe there's still games being invented around this, where there was this kind of play around getting things done in a certain amount of time. And if you could get it done within that time period, you won. And it was always very stressful for me if I couldn't get it done in time. And my brain, it was just another really interesting way of becoming familiar with how my brain worked. That the more I tried, the harder I tried to do things fast and to make everything fit, the worse it was. And Laura's saying, yes, we had it when I was a kid. I found it and Perfection. Oh, so Operation and Perfection. Excellent for M, but she and her friend didn't like the buzzer. That's right, sensorily speaking. That buzzer, whew, it's quite a buzzer. And Wendy says, I loved Perfection, trying to find the pieces after they popped. Oh, interesting. So that's the other side of the game. Once they came out and then gathering everything back together again. Isn't it funny? Well, this is, I was thinking about the theme today. I always try, at least for myself, to have a theme coming in, especially if I can't decide what I want to work on. And oddly, one of the themes I was working on today was nostalgia, the question and the concept of nostalgia and what nostalgia means to each one of us and how it plays a role in our life and our day to day. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So of course, games and like the places we found pleasure in our childhood growing up, the places we, the experiences that brought us closer to one another or closer to ourselves, right? We learn so much about ourselves through play. And you don't have to be an early childhood developmental specialist to know that, do you? You're not always aware of what you're learning when you're playing. What do I want to do? I think it has something to do with mixed media. I was in the Art Hive, the virtual Art Hive morning we had on Tuesday. Momo, one of our wonderful community members, Art Hive folks from Montreal that joins us from time to time, was working on this beautiful mixed media and blackout poetry piece from another Art Hive, I think an Art Hive or a workshop that they'd been a part of. And it just got me thinking. I've been craving collage lately. I've been craving blackout poetry. Maybe that's what it means. Maybe because I have so many ideas, maybe I will just try to draw them all together and create something cohesive with all the bits and pieces. Kind of like a new version of perfection, but I'm calling it imperfection. And I have as much time to work on it as I like. So let's find some collage. Oh, hello. Ah. Oh, goodness. What magazine did I pick up? It's a National Geographic, of course. Stunning images. Sometimes. So strange. Wow. I love National Geographic magazines, and I know folks out there might have some to donate once, we're back out on the road and accepting more donations. What a strange image. I love National Geographics precisely because of the strange images that are there. Things you wouldn't see in a fashion magazine, things that aren't popular commercially. They shake things up and they definitely rearrange your, what's that lovely phrase? Rearrange your cultural furniture. And Laura says, oh, wait, yep. B says, I think perfection contributed to some of my perfectionism issues. Absolutely. See, I can totally relate to that. The games we play and what we learn about ourselves in the process. Yes, National Geographic mags and any of those magazines that have powerful images that kind of send that energy burst through my brain, I may not like the image, but I have a response to it. And I think sometimes that's the most important thing, just to have a response in the first place. And Laura says, I think there've been a few messages about donations on Messenger. Absolutely. And Nicole's saying, perfection terrifies me. Well, you're not alone, I think. I think you're not alone. I think games with loud noises and timers, sometimes for folks, for certain folks anyways, it can just be too much pressure, too much tension in something that's supposed to be fun. And then there's other folks who just love the challenge so much. Again, just another interesting example of how diverse our brains are, how diverse we are. And B saying, does anyone remember that magazine that only had advertisements, but I think they were altered? Oh, I think you might be referring to Adbusters. Could that be the magazine? I love those magazines, and I believe we have some in storage at right now, waiting to go into collage kits when we get the mobile art studio on the road. We want to have different kinds of workshop kits for people And I think some of them will be starter kits, if that makes sense. So one will be a collage starter kit where we can share some of the wealth in magazines that we have now, and the wealth that we're sure or hopeful will continue to come in once we're back out there engaging as we want to again. Oh, lovely. And I think Courtney says, oh, nay, nice. I think have a great day and all enjoy creating. And that might mean Courtney's welcoming folks, but it does remind me, if you are dropping into this art hive but you can't stay for the whole time, that's okay. Spend the time you want here, spend the time you need here. You can watch and participate in the chat if you like. But then maybe you just want to listen or watch and sort of be in the background and do whatever you're doing. That's okay. It's totally okay. And if you need to stay, for the whole thing, great. If you have to leave a little bit early or dip in, a few minutes at a time, that's totally okay too. This time is for you to make or create whatever you want or need to make, to do what feels right. What a stunning image that is. And, sometimes you get surprised. You don't know what that experience is going to be like. So take care of yourself. Take good care of yourself. Do what you need to do. And Adbuster. So yes, excellent. So I'm glad I remember the name of that. You can still find it. It's a little harder to find, not at, at all the convenience stores that might be around us, but still super duper powerful. And I love windows like that as well. Sometimes having a little frame, just looking at the cutout in that magazine, and when you flip it over and you see that image presented just in that way, it's a nice reminder about how we can play with shapes and collage to highlight certain things in unexpected ways. Yeah. And speaking of games and nostalgia, I'm going back to that place of play. Nicole saying, I loved Don't Wake Daddy. I know this game. I've played it with my sister's kids. And Nicole says there's actually an artist on Instagram that draws fake movie posters that imagine classic board games as horror movies. Nicole, if you can share that Insta handle in the link, that would be amazing. I'd love to follow up and learn more about them. And B saying, I haven't seen one of those magazines since I was in university. Adbusters? Absolutely. There's two magazines that kind of look at art and advertising and design from just a lovely, honest, skewered angle. Adbusters is one of them. And I'm pretty sure, I hope it still exists. And then another one, which is a little more traditional art, but focusing on alternative arts or marginalized art forms. Juxtapose, I believe is what it's called. Another fantastic arts magazine that highlights contemporary artists doing things in, perhaps more social justice kind of angles and threads. Let's see. I found one tiny little leaf that's jumping out at me, but that is okay. Since I don't know what this piece is going to look like, I have no idea. Let me put that aside there too. I started doing some blackout poetry right before the stream started, and I got so caught up in it that I looked up and it was 2 p.m. So I think in a future writers group, definitely we'll be working on some blackout poetry or some cutout poetry. Just another really interesting way of tricking your brain into getting creative, into telling stories. Just lifting the weight off of our shoulders of having to produce something and be brilliant about something. Because of course, there's no pressure, no perfection allowed. I wonder what the game of imperfection would look like. That's something to think about. Early on in the studio, the life of the studio space, we did have a board game day. A board game, it was a little bit of a fundraiser, and this was way before Brew Wizards was there, and we just wanted to have a day where people could play board games and we could raise a little money through the process for the studio to help pay rent. It was such a fun day, and there's such as many folks know, such a passionate board game community out there. That might be a little, well, maybe not. In one of the workshops we had, like an art workshop on that day, was creating your own board game. It was tons of fun, and we kept it pretty simple because, of course, creating a board game is, or it can be, super complicated. Mostly, in the end, what it turned into was personalized kind of snakes and ladders games, or like checkers games. We took old record albums, not the records, but just the covers, and we turned them into board games, and it was kind of fun. And B saying blackout poetry is really fun. I get how folks can get really caught up in it. Absolutely. It's just a nice way to free your brain and you're still creating, but you're drawing the words. The words, it's almost like magnetic poetry in a way, and you only have this pool of things to choose from, so it kind of challenges your brain to let go and to distill things and really feel things out. What words feel right in this order, if you can only have them in this order. But of course, there are so many ways and techniques that people use blackout or cut up poetry for sure. So I think definitely, maybe not, well, maybe next week we have our last writers workshop before the Living Room's holiday next week. So folks, just a heads up. We're going to be taking a week off and maybe 2 weeks off from programming so that we can, well, have a break and relax and have a little bit of a breather, step away from the studio for more than just a few days at a time. And I'm excited to actually use some of that time once my brain has, relaxed and chilled out a bit, to plan for the fall and to think of, different workshops that we can do in the fall as well. So because of that, the fabulous Bridget B. Noonan will be hosting a live stream, not this Thursday, but next Thursday, because we missed out on B's Thursday night art hangout, the first Thursday of this month, because it was a holiday. So tune in. Do I want to hold on to that? Maybe I do. Tune in this Thursday night to the Facebook page to hang out and create some stuff. Not this Thursday, next Thursday with B. I think this Thursday might be Laura Brown. We're having some familiar faces as guests. Let's see what I can do here. Now I've chosen this piece to cut out. Part of me is thinking, well, what have I done? It's going to take forever to cut this out in the way I want to cut it out. But, I can cheat a little bit. It's my art. Yes, Laura was confused. So Laura, this Thursday, the following Thursday, that'll be B. And B saying, if making my own board game, I'd probably do a bird-themed trivia game. Bird watching, conservation, nature-themed. Oh, that reminds me a little bit of Wingspan. If folks out there have played Wingspan before, such a lovely, beautiful game. But B, why stop? Why not make your own game? I think as far as board games go, it feels to me like any of the independent arts, we have the big blockbusters out there and the big producers of board games. But there's also a really healthy independent board game making scene out there, and board game design scene. And that's where so many of the new wonderful ideas are coming from. And I love seeing new voices contributing. I love seeing new people being represented in the board game world, just like any other art, any other segment of society. Representation counts. And the more people we have creating those games, the more diverse they become, the more interesting they are. And it provides new opportunities and new inspiration for other games to spring out of those. And we have B saying, Wingspan is fantastic. I play it every week. Yeah, it's a really good game. You can get lost in that game. And Laura's saying BRB. BRB. What does BRB mean? I feel like my brain isn't working as efficiently as it could. Or maybe I'm just not as cool as I should be. BRB. Should I? I think I might know what that means. Do I? Maybe I don't. But definitely more voices in the world of board games. The more voices we have out there creating, providing representation, the better. Because when we were kids, if someone, oh, be right back. Thank you, B. That's why Laura couldn't answer, because Laura wasn't there to answer, and that's okay. Now I know. BRB. I can add that into the lexicon. For folks who aren't familiar or who don't often play board games, there's so many extraordinary ones out there, and all I can do is recommend, when you can, when you're able to, when you feel it's safe enough. Everyone needs to judge that on their own, but definitely head on over if you're in Oshawa or Durham region to Brew Wizard's Board Game Cafe, one of the LivingRoom crew's favorite stomping grounds, and explore with some new board games. There's so much more out there. It's not just about Monopoly and Scrabble anymore. And when I think about some of the games that do exist, if you told me when I was younger that those games were going to be hugely popular when I was older, I don't know if I would have believed you. I don't know if I would have been able to believe that a whole board game around birds of the world would be a thing. But there you have it. An interesting B says, yeah, not sure what I'll end up doing for the Thursday stream, but it'll likely involve a stack of paper and some markers. Love, love, love. Hey, Jay. And Jay saying, hi, Mary. Love the rainbow piece. Looks like rainbow clouds. Yeah, I feel like it is like a rainbow clouds or a rainbow cosmos, perhaps. I created this in the Tuesday morning virtual art hive that we do, the Good Morning Art Hive. Just kind of happened. And I'm thinking now of using it as a backdrop for this collage piece that I'm going to do. But we shall see, we shall see, we shall see. This piece that I'm cutting up might be too big, but it might be just perfect to merge in and blend in with that. I don't know. What do you think? And for folks who are just joining now, we're saying hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us for our Wednesday afternoon live stream. I know that at least here in Oshawa, it is a beautiful day outside. So anytime someone chooses to hang out with us for a little bit inside on a day like this, I certainly appreciate it. Certainly appreciate it. And if you do need to go, or if you want to go, if you enjoy some of this sunshine and breeze that we have going on right now, go for it. I'm not the boss of you. Do what feels right to you. All right. And this piece is taking a little longer to cut out. I knew it would. And what might happen, I don't know if this ever has happened to anyone else out there, you get through preparing a piece that you'd like to add into something, and then you realize that it doesn't actually work. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here, but it might. But then at least I have something cut out and prepared for another piece that I'm working on. Oh yeah, so B's saying just with this piece here reminds you of a nebula. Very cool, very rainbow space, rainbow cosmos. I'm all for a rainbow cosmos. All for that. And B says, oh hey, I watch all the streams on my phone so I can take it out on my balcony. No need to stay indoors on a beauty day. Well, that's fantastic. Oh, and hello, Fred Diely. Nice to see you back. How are things going where you're at? It's been such a great, like the last few months, as you know, interesting and strange as they have been. And of course, strange within context of what we've all shared over the last year and a half is a whole other thing. But we've had lots of opportunities to meet new people, folks joining in our live streams and dropping by to say hi and create with us from all over the world. It's been fantastic to expand our community, to learn more about what the word community even means. And there are so many opportunities now. I think the virtual Hive world is here to stay. I don't think it's going to go away. There might not be as much in the future, but I think this is always going to be here as some kind of resource. Oh, lovely. And Fred's saying you're enjoying the stream from outside too. Of course, why didn't I think about that? Why don't I ever watch live streams from outside? Thanks, folks. You're just shaking up my world. Loving it. Rearranging it all. I need that sometimes. So another wonderful suggestion, if you have the capacity to do so, yeah, why not? Take it out on your balcony or onto your front porch. I know sometimes that hen family, Joe, is taking it taking the live stream on walks with him. All right. I'll do that right now. Yeah, it's a beautiful day, so get some air. And Nicole says, me too, beautiful day out. So I'm just like way behind here on this whole going outside with technology thing. Maybe it must be that I think I'm going to damage something, or I don't know, taking out. I have my phone with me though. Oh, Mary, having a silly day. What a great idea. Take the live stream on a walk. So how would I like to incorporate this piece? What do I think about that? Maybe. And maybe now incorporating this fossil into something. Let's see. How do I want to explode this nebula? What do I want to do here? This rainbow nebula. Yeah, I'm going to go for it. Why not? Sometimes you just have to go for it. Excuse me. And be saying, oh yeah, if my data permits, I'll go for a walk while watching this stuff with my headphones on, or I need to be in, okay, or I need to be in a video meeting. I'll dig out the headphones with the mic. So that's, when I see people talking to themselves, because I just talk to myself, that's something that I just do. I don't need headphones, or don't need to be talking to anyone else. But I think a lot of people have been doing that. I'm seeing folks in parks. Take your meetings outside. Why not? As long as we don't have to. Oh, hello, glue stick. I suppose that's a wonderful thing we're learning, that we don't all have to be inside. I've been thinking about that a lot lately as well. You know, on the theme, an interesting part of what we've been through in the last year and a half, and thinking about that theme of nostalgia as well, is thinking about the things we'll be nostalgic for as we move through this and as things change and alter. And I think for some folks it might actually be working from home if they have to go back. Let's see if I can find another glue stick. This one's so dry. Folks, what do you do when you have a dry glue stick? Let's see if I can warm it up a little bit. And oh, Nicole's saying, your art looks beautiful, Mary. Well, thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much. And Nicole's saying, I'm going to go work on my spiral later today. I've been working on dishcloths for Christmas lately. And you know what? I'm at a time where the next market we have where I can purchase dishcloths from folks, I will be. I've gone through almost all of mine. Some from Unicole, some from Scrapulous, from Kelly. I need to purchase some more crocheted dishcloths because they are excellent. They're amazing. People always told me they were amazing, and they are amazing. I don't know why I didn't use them before. But they are fantastic. And B saying, yeah, it's nice to hit a recovery meeting while outside in the park. Right? There's something, I feel like there's something else there too. I don't know what it is. Just about being able to have your own space and manage your own space when moving through those things, whether it's work or a meeting or like anything wellness oriented that we've been doing on Zoom. I know that, of course I know that being with one another is important. I know that's important. But there's also something, I don't know. It's about building agency, I think. It's about recommitting to something without someone else necessarily holding you accountable. Having the choice to be able to do something. Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't know. And a part of that process for any one of us, is having the option to be in a space that we're more comfortable in as we engage, to be able to listen or learn at a distance so that we can focus on things in a slightly different way. I think we've learned so much about ourselves. And I'm looking forward to see how people advocate for that moving forward and what sticks. And Nicole saying, someone on one of the Facebook groups I'm in asked how people stage photos of what they've made. This is always an interesting topic, especially, we're talking about stuff online, and if people are selling things or marketing things or just trying to share what they love or what they've created. And Nicole says, lately I've been posting mine with a letterboard from the dollar store. It's a great way to add captions and a simple background. Oh, so you mean one of those little that you slide in, you kind of rearrange those little like white letters or the plastic letters on a background? Those are pretty fun to play with. Super fun. That's a great idea, Nicole. It's all a part of this world that we live in now where we have an option to display things the way we want to. That's not a bad thing. All right, stay down. Stick, 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 stick. Let me just trim off some of this here. And I think I saw, I haven't been out that much. I haven't been shopping really in person that much. But the last time I was out, I think I saw some really super affordable light boxes. Not a light box, like a display box for what you make. So it's like a little white cube that you can shine a light into, and it just bounces everywhere, and you can take photos of what you're making, and it's lovely and it looks really professional. So I'm seeing DIY smaller versions of those, and they're great. And B saying, I've been thinking about getting alphabet fridge magnets and putting my art on the fridge to display and take photos. Classic. Absolutely. The first place for many of us where we have an opportunity to exhibit. Oh, come on, glue stick. Come back to me. Right? That's the first for so many people. And maybe it's a generational thing, but the first place our art was hung up for display was a refrigerator. And it's given birth to a lot of fun art exhibits. I know one of our board members, who is a teacher, an art teacher at Dwyer, Paul Dwyer in Oshawa here. There was an art exhibit he held every year for alumni of that high school, as well as emerging artists that were graduating. And the exhibit was called From the Fridge to the Fringe. It's such a lovely way of celebrating that growth and that journey in ourselves. And why not return to it? That's a great place to display your work and to capture it. Yeah. You can add captions with those fridge magnets. It'll be awesome. That's so much fun. And part of the process too of being a creator and kind of deciding, how do I want to display my stuff? How do I want to own that part of my own expressive journey? Because it doesn't have to look like what everybody else is doing. You can make it your own. And Nicole's saying, exactly, with regards to that little letterboard thing, the white letters on the black background, some people use a piece of cardboard with scrapbook paper on it. Sure, absolutely. And Nicole says, I use my door or my wall as a background a lot. I also have a mini pop-up art studio for about $20 online. A mini pop-up art studio. Is that one of the boxes that I was thinking about? And B, just returning to that, the magnetic poetry, or using those magnetic poetry words on my art too, would be wild. You could create those, you could be creating those captions for yourself, you could either include an artist statement directly on the piece or a side beside the piece, or incorporate it into your work. It becomes a whole other new piece, doesn't it, once you've added those other elements into it? I'm excited. I'm so excited to see the journey of these pieces. And folks, again, if you're tuning in now, thanks so much for joining us. Wow, the conversations in these live streams I love so much. We've talked about nostalgia. We've talked about board games. We've talked about how we exhibit and share our art online, which kind of taps into that whole conversation about ownership and like how we want to share our work, if we want to share our work. When is it important for us to share our work? Because it's definitely such a personal thing. And B saying, ultra mixed media. Exactly, right? But then why not? Why not have it be a piece, be something that evolves and grows? You could do a whole series even with one visual arts piece that keeps changing day to day as it appears on your fridge or depending on what's added in. Like a flip book, but instead of a flip book, it's just documenting an artwork's journey that's been hung on the fridge. There's so many things you could do. So many ways to be creative, right? And using the art hanging as an art itself is a cool idea. So many ways to make what we do interesting to ourselves, because that's what really matters in the end. Are we excited by it? Are we interested in it? Because I do know, and that with so many artists that I talk with in the Tuesday art chats and things like that, one of the reoccurring themes, like the pressure that all of us seem to be feeling one way or another to a certain extent, is dealing with kind of the, how would I say it? The pressure to perform or to catch up to what we see other people doing on social media, to create, not because we want to create, and to share, not because we want to share, but because we feel we should. Such an interesting conversation. Just reclaiming that for ourselves, bringing it back to something that makes sense for us, and knowing that you only have to do what you want to do in the way you want to do it. It's all a bit of a social construct. I feel that's fair to say. And if anyone else is out there who has that experience, who'd like to speak to it, about the pressures to create or perform or to share your work, let me know. Or feel free to add to the conversation, rather. You don't have to let me know anything. But it might be interesting to hear how folks negotiate that or navigate that for themselves. We want to have a relationship with our audience. We want to connect with people. And in many cases, in some cases, we want to be able to sell our work and to shine a light on what we do. But sometimes it can begin to feel not just like a job, because it's okay if it feels like a job. There are lots of jobs that are worth doing and that are, can bring you happiness to do. But when it begins to feel like a chore, when it begins to be something you dread, that's a whole other thing, isn't it? And Nicole's saying, yes, it was one of those Lightbox photo studios. There we go. Yeah, you can find them a lot of different places now, and they're quite affordable. Especially good for folks who do jewelry or things like that, where you want to have just a really clean background. They're pretty cool. Yeah, and that's what Nicole is saying. I also like app Photo Room. Haven't used that one yet. It sort of eliminates backgrounds for you, Nicole is saying. And Nicole says, I use, Polish to add little stickers and add captions too. So is Polish an app? Aging minds want to know. I can't keep up with all the things. There's so many cool things. And it has nothing to do with age. More like just maybe laziness? So what do I want to do here? I didn't think I was going to use the watercolors today, but I'm going to dip in. This is completely different than what I was imagining working on when I first tuned in. Thank you, folks. Totally inspired. This is becoming something inspired by the conversations we're having. Yeah, but if you're out there and you're struggling or you're questioning how to keep up with the strange demands of sharing or showing your work to people and the way you do that, you're not alone. You are not alone. And be saying, yeah, it's a weird social construct for me, having social media and sometimes wanting to share my art, but I've been having a hard time feeling creative lately because of some low energy feels of late. I hear ya. I hear ya. You're not alone there either. B says it's why I've been absent from the streams as well, wanting to do art and feel creative, but once I get my supplies out, I feel like I have to go crawl back into bed, which has been hard. Oh, B, I'm sorry to hear that. But it's okay, right? I think, yeah, the knowing that it's okay to not be out there and not be visible and not, again, this strange idea that you're not contributing if you're not showing or proving to people that you're contributing. Do you know what I mean? You're still doing everything you need to do. And that goes for anyone who might be listening, wherever you might be listening from. From time to time, people feel bad if they miss a live stream or if they're not chatting and showing themselves in the chat, or if they can only stay for 5 minutes, or if they don't visit or watch at all. And that's okay. That's okay. For speaking for myself, like, I'm not the boss of you, right? And I'd prefer always for folks to be taking care of themselves and doing something that feels, I know it's strange to say, it doesn't always feel good, does it? But feels right. We can only do what feels right. And to be fair, there's a lot going on. There is a lot going on in the world right now. There's a lot going on in our community right now. And hello, Shelley. Nice to see you joining the stream too. And it looks like, yeah, you're not alone. I see Wendy saying, I know that feeling. Yep. And just for those folks who are interested, Nicole saying, yes, Polish is an app. I use my art to make other people and myself laugh. Always. See, that's another wonderful way to use art. Not necessarily, it's just for you. Anything that makes you happy, that makes you feel good. Any of us feel good. I think it's important to remember that. Because the pressures of contributing and being present and being visible during the last year and a half have been really intense. We want to connect and we want to be there. But I think, to prioritize what works for us in the moment and realize that that's going to shift and that you're still here, right? Just because I can't see someone on social media doesn't mean that they are eliminated, speaking for myself, eliminated from my existence. I know that folks are still out there. I know that folks are still wanting to be engaged. And I know that folks are still thinking of us. We have to make that leap sometimes. We have to imagine that other people are imagining us and our lives complexly and thinking of us in positive ways, even if we don't have that immediate feedback. And I can say here, that's the case, right? And B says, sometimes rest is the most creative thing I can do. And hey, I've had a lot of bizarre dreams that will eventually make it into art. Yeah, absolutely, right? Like that time we take for ourselves to refuel, to hunker down, to make space just to make space in our brains, right? To not constantly put things in it, to fill up that world inside of ourselves. That is important. I don't know if that makes sense. I know that for myself, And one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to taking a break, even though, like, and I think sometimes it should be a longer break. You need to make space for new ideas. You need to make space for connecting with joy again, because when things begin to feel like too much of a grind, we lose that sense of play, right? Does that ever happen to anyone else? You lose that sense of spontaneity and creativity, all those wonderful things that we like to celebrate in the Art Hive movement, if you're constantly on and constantly engaging and constantly making yourself available for other people and not for, reasons that are genuinely good for you, then that becomes lost. And all the great creators, if we're just talking even on like an arts basis, this constant creativity that we've become accustomed to in our current culture is a fairly recent thing. Again, a lot of it has to do with privilege. Those of us who can create and make time for creation, who aren't working, right? Or even I think so many in the past, a lot of the artists and the creators we've admired, yes, they've been disciplined, but that's something very different than showing the world their work as they're doing it. Work comes in many different forms. Sometimes work is just going for a walk and staring at the sky, or going to bed and allowing yourself to rest and have really truly meaningful rest so that you can come back whenever you're ready, feeling rejuvenated. Art just is not it's not just about making. It's not about making, it's about living as well. And Shelley's saying, haven't been on for a while, just so stressed. So yeah, there's a lot of feelings out there. I'm sure, Shelley, that you're not the only one. I'm sorry you've been feeling that way. I'm so sorry you've been feeling stressed, but I know for sure you're not the only one. And interesting, Nicole just talking about that sharing, that sort of public sharing thing. Generally, Nicole's hesitant to post work in progress photos. So that's an interesting thing too. Some people are okay with that, right? For some people, the work never comes to a place where they can consider it finished. So we become, we find our peace with it. But it would be interesting if that's something for you, like where that comes from, where that emerges from. And it's okay. Wherever it comes from, it's okay, because it's about what feels comfortable to you. And Shelley's saying, I have nothing major going on next week. Hopefully get into some real crafting time. Oh, I would hope so too. For folks who have been busy, to find, when you find the time, when you can find the time, whenever that time is, to give yourself that gift if it's something you really want. Such a nice thing. And just revisiting that, what Bea was mentioning too, like I can hear that. I totally hear that. I relate to that. Getting everything set up, wanting to do it. And then just feeling, whew, that was enough. Just setting out all the materials was enough. I don't think I feel like doing it anymore. And Nicole saying, so this is another wonderful thing that folks can try if you're feeling stuck, or maybe you're looking at a way of re-entering into creative time. If you've been away from it for a while, just changing hobbies. Nicole says, I change hobbies if I feel like I'm stagnant. So if you're feeling like you're in that rut, just shaking it up and trying something completely new. Maybe even, like something silly. Something just to let the steam out a little bit. Because I know discipline is important. I get that. And sometimes it is just about starting somewhere and seeing where it goes. But part of that is having that conversation with yourself that lets you know, that reminds you that it doesn't have to be anything at all. It becomes a little easier. And B says, interesting to Nicole, the work in progress piece. I understand that feeling. Works in progress feel unfinished, so it feels odd to post a picture of something I've deemed needs more work. Sure, and we're used to, again, just culturally, with social media in particular, things being products. And we don't always have the time or the capacity to explain the context of a piece. And depending on who you are and how you like to create, that can feel very strange, right? You want people to understand what you're creating. Because when we create something, it is inevitably a small piece of us that we're putting out there. Oh, lovely. Shelley has missed the live stream. Well, we've missed you being a part of it, Shelley. I always imagine folks being out there, if you can't take part, that you're thinking of it. Maybe that's arrogant, but I know people care about the studio. It's one way of me saying, I get it. If you can't be here, if you can't be present for the live stream, that's totally okay. It's like being at the studio itself. Sometimes folks just wanted to come by, step in for a few minutes and say hi, and they couldn't stay, and then they'd be on their way. And that's okay too. When the time is right, when it feels good, that's when we come together, that's when we create. Or sometimes if you're feeling really bad and you know it'll help you feel better, that's also another time, a good time to come by and create. But if you already know what feels right to you and it's not this, that's okay. Permission to do what works for you. And be saying, I think it's easier for me when I'm working on a larger cross-stitch project to post works in progress, because I like to document how different each stage, each piece looks as I go. And I can also see that sort of process pictures can be super fun. And again, only if you're, when we're feeling comfortable with the community we're sharing it with, or when we're feeling confident in not caring about what people think about us sharing it. Perhaps that's another angle as well. And Nicole says, if I posted my work in progress photos, most would be severed heads. LOL. Since Nicole, just some context for that. Since Nicole says, since I make such tiny things, many times I take photos of them next to a lip balm, and to give folks a sense of what you do. And Nicole makes a lot of dolls, a lot of crocheted figures and creatures, so I can understand the severed heads piece. And Nicole saying, I love all your rainbow colors. Well, thank you. Yesterday I happened to, the living room was invited to do a little workshop with P-Flag's Camp Rainbow Phoenix, and it was awesome. There were kids there from all across the country. It was great. But of course, part of their swag kits were all the wonderful pride flags. So I was just seeing rainbow after rainbow after rainbow after rainbow. I think I have rainbows on the mind. But it's always a go-to place for me to play with color. When in doubt, play with color. See where it takes you. So much so that I'm interested in and looking forward to playing more with darker elements as well. More graphic things. So I think sometimes that can be a little scary too. And what are folks working on out there? If you have projects on the go that you'd like to share, things you'd like to work on, please let me know. You don't have to, but it's always a pleasure to see and hear what people are working on. And of course, after the post today, after the live stream rather, I'll do a little show and tell process pic. So that's a place where people can share images of what they're working on. Work in progress pics are always welcome. And you can also share things like links to pages you have, YouTube channels. I know that Wendy has a new YouTube channel. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet. But it was posted in the show and tell comment or post we did after the live stream last week. Super excited to learn more about that. Again, new ways of sharing what we do. I'm sure, Wendy, I'm sure it's awesome. I know that feeling, though, of how it can be so nervous to put yourself out there on another platform. Currently experimenting with TikTok, and right? There's a lot there. And Nicole's saying, Brandy the dog is listening to the live stream with me. Oh, hello, Brandy. Hello, Brandy. Animals are always welcome in the live stream. And be saying, I find tiny art to be so intriguing. I do too. I do too, B. My impulse, B says, is generally to have gigantic ideas. I want to make mixed media mural on my apartment wall, but I don't think my lease permits that kind of thing. With documents and cross stitch and collages and like string connecting stuff like a conspiracy theory wall, but about my own mental health. Whoa. Oh, that sounds like a brilliant project, I gotta say. So I can see why your building might not be into you doing that on the side of on the building, or even inside on a wall. I know a lot of apartments aren't so fond of that kind of thing, even like hanging up pictures sometimes. But I think that's a piece a lot of folks it would resonate with a lot of people. And I love that angle of kind of like that CSI, crime investigations kind of angle as well. It's not so much crime, but it's investigating and following the leads that help us discover and learn about ourselves, that help us uncover the things that might have contributed to where we find ourselves, or to learn about where things have come from and the patterns that are there, so that we can anticipate our needs better and just generally take better care of ourselves. And I feel like that could be, wellness and art are always such like, they go hand in hand on that journey, right? Because we learn about ourselves through the things we create so much of the time. So much of the time what I learn is a surprise, something I wasn't aware of, even being there. And what it enables us to do is put the pieces together. And not that we solve anything, but we uncover the truth. The truth. I was just going to say the truth will set you free. Oh, goodness gracious me. Taking a deep dive into some cliche territory today. But hey, the reason it's a cliche is because it's true. Is that a thing? And excellent, Nicole, working on a tiny alligator right now. Just needs one more leg. Love it. And in response to B, Nicole's asking, could you use a cork board instead? So if you had a giant cork board. And B saying, if I could swing it, I just steal a wall of the McLaughlin Gallery and just stealthily staple and pin stuff to it, like an Art Attack from a show. Yeah, I remember that show. I think a lot of folks love Art Attack. Plays, has a special place in a lot of people's hearts. Yeah, well, you know what? If you can't find the wall right now, I wonder if you could start working on things in blocks. Yeah, that could be put together and arranged, expanded upon over time, like a big map. A big map, maybe, that could fold in on itself when you weren't working on it. Interesting. But I do love that concept. Undercover for ourselves, doing a deep dive to learn what we need, what the story is. But that did remind me, speaking of Robert McLaughlin. Oh, wait, we have another lovely... Oh, hi, Crystal. Lovely. Crystal says, good to listen in. I'm hoping to get back into something and some crafting next week for your vacation time. Excellent. Can't wait. Would love to know what you're thinking of working on, if there's anything that's calling to you. For folks who are out in the community tomorrow, and especially if you know folks, you can help spread the word as well, if you happen to see people who might be interested. I'm actually going to be at the Backdoor Mission, or Mission United, from 1 to 4 p.m. Setup probably is at 1, so maybe kicking off around 1:30. We're going to be doing a little art there with folks and contributing to a project that, a film project that they're doing, documenting people's experiences, their stories. Some of it will be for a documentary project that Carla is working on. Washed my paintbrush off in my tea. It happened again. Knew it would. So some of it's going to be sort of in prep and support of the project that Carla and Empty Cup Media are doing with them. But really also just a fun opportunity to reconnect with some community members that we haven't seen for a long time, create with them, help soften some hearts and, you know, examine those places where we feel what? Remind one another that our stories matter. Remind one another of the power of our own voice. I'm sure there's plenty of folks who don't need help with that. I think it can't hurt. It can't hurt to be reminded. So that's what we're going to be working on tomorrow from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Backdoor Mission. So if you know of folks who might be interested in that and interested in contributing to that kind of conversation, come on by and say hi. And Nicole's saying, I remember trying to make a papier-mâché piggy bank from Art Attack. Oh, back to Art Attack. Such a fun show. And it didn't really work. PVA glue has always seemed like a like a mythological element I've heard of but can't get. And B saying maybe oh, okay, so back to how to do this. The kind of the mapping art that, yeah, when you can't have a giant wall or a giant canvas, be saying maybe a trifold drywall section with bits trailing off and leaping out, but huge with things that smell and folks are allowed to touch. That sounds, I love how this project is expanding. I love it. Expanding and also distilling at the same time. And hello, Sandra. Welcome, Sandra. It's so good to know you're out there watching. So good to see you. How are you doing today? I know it's not always an easy question for folks to answer when I ask that. So whenever I do ask a question, know that you don't have to answer it. I'm not the boss of you. But if it's something that you do feel comfortable responding to or sharing about, you know that you are more than welcome. Oh, Crystal's saying, oh, nice. So on your vacation, going to work on sand art. A sand art project with the kids. Oh, now you're going to do that now. And we'll take pictures to share. Oh, fantastic. Love to see those. Love to see pictures of sand art. There's a lot of sophisticated tools in sand art now. A lot of really nice sand to work with. Once upon a time, it was kind of, you created your own sand to make the art with, but now you can buy all sorts of colored, beautiful pigmented sands and things like that. B saying, can't wait to see either. So yes, please share the pictures if you feel comfortable doing so. And Sandra says, oh, so folks, for those of you who aren't aware, Sandra going through some difficult times with health, but as always, for anyone who remembers Sandra from the studio, a warrior heart, fierce creative warrior heart, has just gotten back from the hospital. And wow, so finishing up a round of chemotherapy, and you have 18 days off. Oh, Sandra, that sounds like some time to rest, to reclaim yourself. Hopefully have a little bit of enjoyment, a little bit of relaxation there as well. Hanging out on that beautiful front porch and looking at that beautiful garden you have there. There's so much to appreciate in the world. And I'm always reminded of that every time I come here and I connect with community. And maybe, I'm hoping there'll be more opportunities to connect as well as we move forward. Tomorrow will be the first time we're back out in community for, well, it's been a long time. But it's hopefully the beginning of more events happening. And again, just keeping in mind safety and what happens in community. Even though so many of us are vaccinated and double vaccinated even now, we still need to be tender with ourselves and thoughtful of one another and the folks out there who maybe aren't vaccinated for so many reasons. And Sandra is looking forward to some rest and some relaxation and some just, yeah, enjoying it all, right? Be saying, I said it earlier in the chat, but sometimes rest can be a creative endeavor, Sandra. Absolutely. And let's not forget we have choices about how we rest sometimes too, right? Not to get silly about it, but there are opportunities to really own our rest, our experiences of health and well-being, and how we create that for ourselves. Just to get the most out of it, to really commit to that rest and not let it be, well, if someone, I'm trying to think of the times where I've tried to rest, but I felt guilty about it, like I should be doing something else or be available for something else or someone else. And I think owning it, if we can just own it, then you can shake all of that off. You can just let it go. You don't have to feel guilty about taking care of yourself, ever. I think it's good to remind ourselves of that every once in a while. It's good to remind ourselves that we don't have to feel guilty about making decisions that are right for us and our well-being. Ever. And Nicole's saying, one of my friends is really into resin. Does anyone else here use resin? Oh, such a good question. I've not had any experience with resin myself, but I do know that there are some community members who watch you do. So if you happen to be watching this live stream, even after it's been archived and you know something about resin, feel free to tag Nicole Hen and share some of those resources. Because resin can be tricky. Although there are so many amazing kits out now that make mixing and using resin so much easier than it used to be. It used to be one of those endeavors where you could only go to the hardware store, and yeah, now there are pre-mixed resins that you can use. Yeah, there's lots of awesome options out there for you, Nicole. Oh, lovely. Sandra's saying you're going to attempt some crocheting this weekend. Perfect. I would love to see pictures of it if you feel like sharing them. You can. And B saying, just following up on that thread of rest. Rest is a revolutionary act when our society holds productivity as the highest goal. You bet. And you know what? I feel like I'm going to say that one more time because it's so important. And I think so many of us, I need to hear it. And if I need to hear it one more time, there might be someone else out there who does. Rest is a revolutionary act when our society holds productivity as the highest goal. Absolutely true. And it's such a it's an interesting place to be, right? To be a part of the society and knowing that wanting to feel purpose, wanting to feel motivated to contribute, and at the same time recognizing that in order to ever be able to do that and have it be meaningful, we need that rest. And we might have to talk back to those, sometimes people, sometimes inner critics, sometimes bosses, family. There's lots of folks out there, culture, the news, whatever. We might need to talk back to that and create those boundaries for ourselves. Beautiful, beautiful boundaries that when we're within those boundaries, we can rest and we can take care of ourselves and do what we need to do, knowing that that is what's best. And that will help us get back to a place where we feel purposeful, but in terms of what makes sense to us, what matters to ourselves, our own terms. Productive as defined by us in whatever way we can be productive. Because, depending on who we are, where we're at, what our wellness looks like, it looks like a lot of different things, right? That idea of productivity. And we're not quite there yet as a culture to recognize that. The roles that we all have to play in creating a healthy and wealthy, and wonderful culture, city, region, whatever it might be. We're not quite there yet. We're still stuck in these old ideas of what being a good little worker means. And I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that even internally, I'm still stuck there too. I have to challenge those things within myself all the time. Again, just talking back to that inner critic. And Sandra says, I want to get my yellow blanket done. This blanket sounds extraordinary. For folks, Sandra's been visiting some of our AM, our Good Morning art hives that we do on Zoom every Tuesday morning, and sharing little bits and pieces about this blanket. It does sound so beautiful. And I love how it's growing with you and changing with you. It's telling a story about who you are. That's what all art does. You've heard me say it before, folks. Art's another way of telling a story. Sharing something about ourselves with the world, or just with folks we love, or just sharing the story because we need to tell the story for nobody except ourselves. It's beautiful. I can't wait to see it. All important conversations. Thank you so much to everyone who's helped hold space today for me as I try and figure out what the heck I'm doing in my art, in my life. Sometimes it feels that way, like I'm just figuring it out as I go. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think we're all just figuring it out as we go along, and it's so great to know that we don't have to do that all by ourselves. And I'm quite enjoying this piece now. I know this is definitely a work in progress. I think what's it going to be? Where's it going to land? I think this painting is saying something, this whole image is saying something about life. Something about life, where it comes from. Sandra's saying, I'm on the last round of yellow, then weaving in the tails. Oh my goodness, so close to being finished, that beautiful crocheted blanket, Sandra. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. For folks, if you can remember, one of my favorite images in the studio has always been, especially on days where we had shifts, and I'd be entering into the space when it was already bustling and hustling and full of creativity and full of life. And one of my favorite things was coming in and seeing Sandra set up usually near the front door at one of the tables with beautiful crochet stuff spilling out onto the tabletop. It was always such a pleasure to be introduced or reintroduced to what Sandra was working on, what stage of the project she was at. Sandra has been a huge resource in the community, teaching so many people how to crochet and knit as well, and sew. So I will always, I see you in my mind's eye, sitting there, sharing your gifts and your skills with folks. Working away on something, always something colorful, always something vibrant. And so intricate. You and Nicole actually share that skill with crochet, being able to crochet very delicate, almost lace-like things at different times. And that ain't easy. And you've shared that gift with so many people. Well, thank you, Sandra. Sandra's saying thanks, but thank you. Because sitting at one of those two front tables, for folks who remember the space we used to have, also meant that you were often the greeter, and sometimes often meant that you were also the first to encounter anything super weird that was happening or coming into the community space. And I'd be lying if I said art hives didn't get weird sometimes. Our art hive, in our community, we have so many delightful characters. We're all humans dealing with different things. And some days it would get weird. And Sandra was oftentimes the first line of, defense is the wrong word to use here, but sometimes Sandra caught the weird before anyone else did. Engaging with it before anyone else had a chance to, just because of where you were positioned. And that was always a good feeling, knowing that you were there. And B saying, oh, Oh, says B, I worked on a patch for a friend's favorite pair of pants last night, and it reminded me of you and your visible mending, Mary. B, I love visible mending. I love, again, like just the traditions, the Japanese traditions of sashiko inspired mending, and I am by no means, so many. There's you got to put in a lot of time to practice that craft, and I imagine to learn everything you need to know to be able to say that you do sashiko. But I love riffing on it. I love being inspired by that. For folks who aren't familiar with visible mending, that whole movement is about not hiding what the different tears or repairs that have happened or occurred in your clothing, but almost repairing them in a way that highlights them or makes them more beautiful, that helps tell a story about this article of clothing or this accessory that you've had in your life, where it's been, where it's going. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And again, in a culture where we often throw things away once they become damaged, being able to mend them helps them move forward and tell a new story, gives them new life. And there's a lot of folks listening out there who've probably always mended their clothing. And I know for people in my own life, when I do the visible mending, sometimes they just get very confused about why I'm highlighting it and not trying to hide it. And there are some items of clothing where I do want to hide it if I can, but if it fits with the clothing or the accessory, I'm going to show it. I want people to see the work, see the story. It's a beautiful thing. I'd love to see it, B. If you have pictures, I'd love to see it. If you feel like sharing, if you can. And B says, I was doing like fairly standard sewing stuff, but I wasn't going out of my way to hide the worn pieces. Oh, and he was very pleased to have the torn knees fixed up in time for him to go camping. Right? Gives new life to the clothing. I'm looking forward to being on the road, and if Laura's out there, I think Laura will be in on with this as well, because out where you're at in your community, it's a huge thing. I'm looking forward to doing some repair cafes and pulling out the sewing machines, and specifically with clothing, repurposing clothing. There's so many opportunities. And it makes a lovely gift too. I think for folks, if you have that piece of clothing that, if you're able to help out just like B did with someone to repair something or give new life to it, and adding your own creativity into that piece and telling a new story with it, it's very lovely. B says, I didn't take any pictures, but when he comes back from the trip, I'll ask if he minds if I share some photos. Fantastic. It's all good. There'll be so many other opportunities to share. And that goes for anyone. If I ask you to share stuff, you don't have to. But if you'd like to, please feel free. And after this post, I will be sharing a picture of this with a little show and tell piece. So if you have pictures of things you're working on, things you'd like to share, links, again, feel free. It's always so lovely to see what people are working on. And I do think it's nice for other community members to stumble across the page and have a little insight into the art, the creativity that's still going on out there, even though they might not be able to witness it in person right now. And just to celebrate you, folks, you, and everything you do. And Laura says, yes, I am here typing out parts of the zine for the paint chip workshop. Yes. I can't wait for the next Repair Cafe. And I love it. I love everything about the Repair Cafe ideas and the conversion of the bus. We're making sure that we have enough. That's one of the main things a lot of the funding is going towards, is making sure that we have enough backup electricity, energy, so that we can be parked in a certain place without having to run the engine all the time, without having to have a giant generator that we haul around, but enough electricity that we can plug in some sewing machines or have some tools on hand to help folks repair things. And just excited about that journey. And TBH means something. What does it mean? Again, I know what BRB means now, but I don't know what TBH means, do I? B says, I will probably need to mend the knees of those pants again once he gets back. The thread I used was a little dicey, and I'm not sure how it'll hold up. You know what? You'd be surprised. I've used all different kinds and qualities of thread on a lot of the repairs in my pieces, and sometimes even the most inexpensive thread does wonders. It just kind of hooks all those fibers in together and reminds them that they have strength. If that is even a thing, I like to think it is. Is our clothing alive? Maybe. Maybe not. Science is still out. Oh, to be honest, thank you. So TBH, to be honest, I'm slowly getting maybe a little bit more cool with every live stream I do, with everything the community teaches me about. And maybe I'll get to a point where I'll just be sort of cool enough, and then everything will change. And there'll be new things I need to learn. That is life. That's okay. It's just the way it is. So folks, it is 3:27. Wow, how that time flew. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, for listening to me chat, for engaging in those conversations that I think are really, really important about rest. Rest being a revolutionary act at times. Maybe all the time. Conversations about sharing and having an awareness of what we want to share and why, and not being afraid to say no. Talk back to the pressures that might expect more from us than we want to or are ready to give in any moment. Thank you for having the conversation about nostalgia. And perhaps nostalgia is one of those things that will only ever be in hindsight, but perhaps we can use this time to also protect what we want to be nostalgic about, which includes things like taking care of ourselves, learning how to prioritize and learn and discover what our own pace is, and know that it's okay to move forward at our own pace, to learn, to practice at our own pace, to reclaim spaces and processes for ourselves in ways that are more meaningful, in ways that are more manageable for ourselves. Let me have a close-up of this piece. Let's see what it looks like when it's close up, just before we wrap up. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Okay. So I like this. Definitely a work in progress. But there's something interesting there that I want to keep developing. Yeah, I think so. Something there. Something there, folks. But yeah, taking, again, so many of our conversations in these live streams come back to self-care and to finding ways to be okay with that. It's a part of the process. It's a part of life, and I think we're just going to have to practice it until we get better at it, until we don't notice doing it anymore. So until we don't notice that we're actually advocating for ourselves and to other people, that we need them to be there for us. We need to teach them how to treat us, as you know, so we can all move forward together. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Maybe one day it will feel, we won't even notice asking for what we need and being able to accept it when it's offered. Isn't that interesting? Maybe. And B saying, I've used both tooth floss to hold denim together and it works pretty well. Tooth floss, that would be an amazing thing, because it's so strong. Top tip. I'm going to try that next time in some of my mending work. And you're right with the tooth floss. The denim generally tears first. It's true. And Sandra's saying, I was glad I was able to pop in for a while. Now going for my nap. See you all later. And you take care of yourself. Enjoy that nap, Sandra. Enjoy that rest. You've earned it, and you are worthy of rest. And I think that goes out to everyone out there. And Laura, oh wow, thank you, folks. Some nice little compliments coming on this piece that we're working on. And Emily loves it too. Oh wow, looks like rainbow shells. Inner mother of pearl, I think. She says hi, and I say hello right back. I say hello right back to you, Emily. Always excited to see what you're working on too. Emily's an awesome artist. Well, folks, here we are at that time of the day where I begin to wrap up, where I begin to prepare and take Alice for her afternoon walk. Thank you so much for spending time with me and sharing space and sharing your creativity, sharing your heart and your art. It's always just such a beautiful time to hang out. I treasure these Wednesday afternoons. And for folks who are watching after it's been archived, and I'm no longer here to chat with you or respond when you type in your comments, know that I'm thinking about you too. And I'm so glad that you're able to spend time and watch and share space with us. You still contribute, even though you might not be able to contribute in that visual way that folks see in the conversation. Thanks to everyone who's out there just listening or watching. You count too. And I think, again, just another reminder, can't hurt. Take care of yourselves. Not the boss of you, but I invite you to take care of yourselves and to prioritize that self-care. To really consider how important it is in being able to do all the many things that you do. It's okay to create those boundaries for ourselves and to protect that space. I love that term, protect that space. I love it. I think it was Corinne maybe from Trent U, who first used that phrase with me. And now I can't stop using it because I think it is important. Before we find ourselves burnt out or tired or sick or in crisis, find a way to anticipate your needs, learn about yourself, anticipate your needs, and protect that space and everything that you want to fill that space in. It won't always look the same from day to day. That's okay, right? You know what's best for you. So please, 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 please listen to your instincts, take care of yourself, and hopefully we'll see you again real soon. Oh, one more thing. Emily wants me to know that she finished customizing the deck of cards. Emily, we need to see some photos. I don't need to see some photos. If you want to share some photos, I'd be really happy to see them. And that goes for everyone else as well. Right after this, in a few minutes, I'll post a work in progress pic, a show and tell on the Facebook page. If you have any images or links to things that you're working on, that you're proud of, that you want to shine a light on and celebrate in a community space, in the Art Hive space on our Facebook page, please feel free to post them there and chat with one another and connect. If there's someone out there that's doing something that you love, let them know. That appreciation goes a long way, especially in times where we can't connect as easily as we'd like. And on that note, until we can connect and create with one another again in person, I look forward to connecting and creating with you right here online. See you again soon, folks. Bye.